Hello my friends, and welcome to today's video. As you can probably tell from the thumbnail of the video that you clicked on, as well as from me being in my exercise corner here, I'm going to be talking today about my experience with the Peloton and doing 20 classes in 1 week from Sam Yo. As a very brief introduction to me, my name is MelissaJoyce. I am on a little bit of a health journey. From my very highest weight, I have lost 52 pounds, and I have about another 30 pounds I would like to lose. However, at this point, my focus is a lot more on athletics and physical, how my body feels, rather than purely on weight. I just want to say it once again how happy I am that I have my Peloton bike. Where I am, gyms have shut down again. We are on another stay-at-home order, so I am very lucky to be able to exercise in my home. Plus, having it in my eye line every day just makes me want to get on it even more. If you have not watched anything on my channel before, one of my most popular videos was one that I did on my first 30 days of owning the bike, and I've also done the entire starting strength program and made a video about that. I will link both of those in the description below. I don't often say this at the start of the video, but if you do like this video, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. Of course, do that as you watch the video. I'm not asking you to do it right now, but I often forget, so I just wanted to get that out there. In my time so far with the Peloton bike, I've kind of been randomly deciding which classes to do, usually based on what I'm in the mood for that day, and I've also been doing a number of the Just Ride rides and watching TV while I ride, which is fine. It gets me some exercise while I'm watching TV, but I don't tend to push myself very hard when I'm doing that, so I wanted to do something to get me back into doing the classes. In terms of instructors, so far one of my go-tos has been Tunde. I've also done rides with Cody, Ali, Robin, Matt, and Alex as well. So I have taken classes here and there from a number of people, but I thought it would be interesting to, over a number of weeks, focus 1 week on doing classes from one instructor and really spending some time to get to know that instructor, their style, what they're like, and if I jive with them. And I thought I would share all of that with you too. In putting together this video, I wanted to provide some structure to it, so I'm going to break down my thoughts into 3 categories. The first is the workout itself, sort of the structure, what the workouts are like. The second is the style of the instructor, so more like what kind of motivation do they provide, more about their personality in a ride. And then third is going to be personal fit. And I do think that this is going to be the most interesting part of the video, and that is more about those little bits and pieces about how you might jive with this instructor that would really make them your go-to. So please stay tuned for that part of the video. I decided in doing these reviews, I would do at least 1 class in each of the type that they offer. So not only cycling, but also stretching, strength if they provide it, walking or running, yoga, meditation, boot camp. If they offer it, I would try it. And I'm also going to put a list in the description below of every class that I took, so if I mention one, it can be easy for you to find. As you can tell from the title, I decided to start with Sam Yo. I'd never really done any classes from the London crew, and I saw a reference to him at one point having been a Buddhist monk, and that was just sort of enough to get my interest piqued and want to take some of his classes. So let's start with the workout. Of course, he does cycling classes, but I also took his stretching classes, mostly all, I'm pretty sure all post-ride stretches. In terms of strength, he does arm toning, because who doesn't want arms that look like his? And then also Pilates, which I was the most hesitant about because I have never tried Pilates in my life. So in terms of workout, I started out with a beginner class and then an advanced beginner before moving on to some of his longer rides and theme classes. Sam does provide a lot of cues while riding, both in terms of your form as well as your breathing. More so I noticed than other instructors that I've done. So I did find that during his classes, I probably had the best form and just the best feeling that I was through most of my rides. He also seemed to have a really good ability to provide you with those cues right when I felt I needed them. He also breaks things down in a way that aren't super technical. Like I did a ride with Matt and it was very technical, and then some other people just aren't really very technical at all, and Sam is somewhere in between. So he provides what he calls the 3 C's of being on the bike in those beginner classes, which is comfort, control, and confidence, and uses those to sort of get you in the right mindset of being on the bike. In the advanced beginner, when you start to get into getting out of the seat or out of the saddle, he provides you with 3 Bs, which is bike, body, and breath. And having those cues really does keep you in form and in breathing and thinking about the connection that you're doing with your body while you're doing the ride and riding out of the saddle. He does a really good job of getting you the right form without it being super technical. Another thing that I really enjoyed about his workouts is that I did find overall, he provided outlines for the class. So at the beginning, he would sort of give you structure of what it was you were going to do. And he did point out in one of the 30-minute rides that I did that his 30-minute rides tend to be more about endurance. So you're not going to be all over the place. It's going to be this part of the ride, we're going to focus on strength. This part of the ride, we're going to focus on like cadence, but you're more doing the same level for longer periods of time. So if you're somebody who likes a bit more structure and not being all over the place, he really does provide that. And that even carried into his arm toning classes. He would sort of say, okay, we're going to do this for a minute each, then we're going to do this, and then for the last few minutes, we're going to do this. So you would always have that idea of what to expect, which for me helps frame a ride and helps me get in the right mindset for it, and provides me with a bit more confidence. And he also uses a bit more imagery of the ride actually being a ride on an actual bike. So in one class he talked about we're going to do a hill, and then when we get to the top of the hill, we're gonna bike around a little bit, have a bit of a picnic, and use that instead of saying, and then we will have a 1-minute recovery, for example, which is kind of nice. And I find that focus on structure carries into things that he does that stay the same. So you will always have the sort of same structure at the end of your ride, the same kind of bringing your heart rate down, the same stretches. And I find that consistency really gets you in the mindset of cooling down from a ride. So the structure is really there. And before I move on from the very specifics about the workout, let me mention that I did hit 2 personal records during this week, but I'll get to more of that later. So let's talk about Sam Yo's style, or at least what I gained from it after doing these classes for a week. And I would say, if I had to describe it overall, I would say structured, calm and cool, using imagery. And I know I mentioned that in the first part, but I just want to expand on that a little bit now. I think one of the reasons I avoided some of the London classes at first is I had read somewhere that they tended to be a little bit more low-key than some of the American instructors. And in my first while having the bike, I found that I really jived with some of the people like Alex or Ali, where they're very rah-rah, really like getting after you to get on and like do the best you can do, or not even do the best you can do, but like push yourself, go for excellence. And Sam's style is much more smooth and steady. He's never going to get off the bike and yell at you to do your best. The best way that I can describe Sam is that I felt very supported through his rides, and because of that support, it gave me the confidence to do the best that I could do. The focus was always on the ride itself, rather than sort of a lot of self-helpish kind of stuff, if that makes sense, and also a lot of focus on the music. So very much in riding with the beat, and when you were doing out of the saddle, it was very much, or cadence pushes, it was always sort of like with the chorus, with the push in the music. So your focus was all kind of there in the moment. And he was very much about doing the best that you can do, but something about that motivated me to do better. And he would also let you know what was important in that moment and what you could modify if you needed to. So if you were in sort of a cadence part of the ride, he would say, you know, if you need to modify your resistance, this is what we're focused on right now. I mentioned the imagery earlier, and I'll mention it again because it really did help me focus on the ride. So again, in terms of imagery, in his cool down rides, he would always talk about sort of thinking of the waves on an ocean. So during your ride, you were getting your heart rate up, you were getting everything going, and you were making huge waves. And then as you're doing the cool down, you are bringing those waves back down again. You're bringing some calm to the ocean. And pretty much all of the cool down rides I did with him had the same structure. So you sort of knew what to expect, and it really did provide you that lowering of heart rate and getting back into a calm state of mind. On another ride, he used the imagery of being in a pack of cyclists when he was talking about your cadence. So it would be like, keep up with the pack, staying with the pack, and then you would do a cadence push, get ahead for a little bit, and then come back to the pack, rejoin the pack, stay with that group. And I really like the imagery of being in a group of cyclists when I was really going nowhere in my living room. The final piece, which is not so much imagery, but just something he does at the end of every ride. And I think, again, because there were those cues, it really helped me focus on what he wanted me to do, is that at the end of every ride, he would have you make a fist and put it over your heart so you could feel your heartbeat. And it would be in that last minute of cool down of the ride. So you would really feel your heart. You would connect with how you'd brought your heart rate up. And then do some breathing, think about bringing your heart rate down, think about relaxing, and sort of relax your fist at the same time that you're bringing that heart rate down. And I think that the more you do these cues, the more your body and mind start to connect and realize, okay, we're doing this, we're focusing on this, we're bringing our heart rate down. And the repetition of it really brings your body and mind together to actually make that happen. Also, in terms of some things being repeated, he has the same phrase that he usually uses before increasing resistance. And for the first few rides, I found it very repetitive. It's the, if it feels good and you should, increase your resistance by 1 to 2 points. And I found actually as it went along, I really appreciated that. Sometimes I'm listening to the music, sometimes I'm in my head, and that phrase would bring me back to go, oh, we're increasing our cadence or our resistance now, and bring me back into the moment to make sure that I did it. In this week, I also did his New Year's recovery ride, and it was excellent. And once again, very excellent in terms of that imagery and connection. He talked about sort of grounding yourself in where you are in the moment, not thinking about the future or the past, and that was good, but it didn't connect with me as much as him talking about breathing. So he was talking about focusing on your breathing, breathing in for 4, breathing out for 4, but brought it to something that he had learned about how you can either draw power or draw energy from your breath, or your breath can draw energy and power from you. And he did this in a way that was, I don't want to say spiritual, but very thoughtful, which is something that I really connected with. But at the same time, it was interesting to me because I have a sister who is a therapist, and she was talking about stress and anxiety at one point and saying the best thing that you can do is focus on your breathing, because when you get stressed, when you get anxious, when you have any emotion, the first thing that happens physiologically is that you tend to start breathing really shallow. And if you can bring that time to focus on your breath, it actually makes a connection with your mind to bring that stress level down. It seems like a small thing, but it really does help not only with your mental state, but actually physically with making you feel better. So even though he came at it from a drawing power kind of thing, it really is something that does happen with your body. And again, he sort of brings this imagery to it that I really appreciate it. So let's move on to the final category, and the one that I'm most excited about talking about, which is the personal fit with me. So when I went to start choosing rides at the start of the week, I was sort of going by category and then sorting by his most popular rides, because I thought it's fair to start with the most popular ones, the ones that people really liked. And I knew nothing about him at that point, but one of the first things that came up was his Bon Jovi ride. And then a bunch of things from the 80s and 90s. And it was like, I love all of this. Like, this is all stuff that I am super here for. And it seems like he has a lot of the same personal taste that I do. And I decided to go look at his Instagram because I was just trying to get to understand him better. I had heard this like Buddhist monk thing, and then here he is with like his favorite band being Bon Jovi and all these like 80s and 90s rock that I love. And one of the things that I found was this picture of him celebrating his first birthday in 1979, which means that he is 42 and the exact same age that I am. So no wonder we enjoy a lot of the exact same things, and I understood so many of his references is because we're the same age. Granted, grew up in different lives, different side of the world, but so much of the cultural references that we have are from the same time. Even little things. He was doing a stretch where he was doing the figure 4 stretch, and he made a reference to how it always reminded him of a dance move that Kid and Play did in one of their movies. And I was like, yeah, Dance Party, House Party, I think it was. And that thing where they jump through their leg. Like, such a little thing, but just, you realize when somebody has, as I said, grown up with the same stuff that you have, that you connect with that and you have a lot of the same likes. Also, just a little thing that took me a while to realize, he would talk a lot about bringing balance to the force of your pedal strokes. And the first time I was like, is that a Star Wars reference? And then I thought, no, he's just talking about pedals. And then I realized, no, he would pause in between with a little bit of a smile there to say, remember to always bring balance to the force of your pedal strokes. It's like, no, this is a Star Wars reference. And the arm toning classes that I did, I don't know if this was complete coincidence, but both of them were 80s movie training montage themed. So like if you want the theme song to Rocky while you are doing like, you know, arm training together and also some like, you know, jabs and uppercuts, go for his arm toning workouts. I don't know if this was complete coincidence or not as well, but the advanced beginner ride that I did, the part where he was teaching you how to come out of the saddle, the song that was playing at the time when you did your first like 2 or 3 times coming out of the saddle was Hungry Eyes. And all I associate that with in my mind is Dirty Dancing and the montage where she's learning how to dance. And so the entire thing I had in my head during that time was her learning how to do the lift in Dirty Dancing while I was coming out of the saddle. So not at all the same thing, but that was the imagery in my head. Every time I came out of that saddle, I was like Jennifer Grey being held up out of the water by Patrick Swayze. His 80s and 90s rides I loved, just like Guns N' Roses and Pearl Jam, and even the ones that were like, you know, 9 to 5 by, you know, Dolly Parton in the rides were just, I just loved his musical taste. But let me talk about the Bon Jovi ride, because he talked about it being his first artist ride, his first theme ride, because he just absolutely loves Bon Jovi. And I 100% appreciate that he was wearing a jean vest through that entire ride. And also, as soon as I saw that he was a fan of Bon Jovi from the rides that I was choosing, and then I saw him, I was like, does he have the Bon Jovi tattoo? So the reason that I connected with this, the very first concert I ever went to when I was like early high school was Bon Jovi. It was during the Keep the Faith era. I lined up with my friends for hours because we had general admission tickets at the Molson Amphitheater in Toronto. There's seats, but we were in the pit area. We lined up, we ran our hearts out when they opened those gates, and we ended up sort of at the very front against the bar to watch Bon Jovi. It was the first concert I ever went to. I thought it was amazing. At the end of the concert, when people were throwing things up on stage, he was sort of picking up some things, John Bon Jovi, and picked up some flowers and then like threw them back out into the crowd, and I got them, and let me tell you, I kept those flowers long past when I should have kept them. In that ride, I was having so much fun. I hadn't listened to Bon Jovi in so long, and I didn't realize that every single one of their lyrics is still locked in my head somewhere. And that was one of the rides where I hit not only a personal record on a 30-minute ride, but that was the first ride that was 30 minutes long, or the first non-beginner or advanced beginner ride where I actually hit all the cues and stayed with all the cues for cadence and resistance. I was enjoying myself so much. It was amazing. If you have any love of Bon Jovi and want to try one of Sam's rides, I would recommend that. And then also in terms of personal fit, the other one that I would really recommend was his New Year's recovery ride. It was like awesome, like more relaxed kind of music. He talks a little bit more about himself, and from the rides that I saw, you know, small sample size, he doesn't talk about himself as much as some of the other instructors do. So I really liked, you know, that longer format and more relaxed format for him talking a little bit more. But the very last ride in that New Year's recovery ride, he set huge ranges for both cadence and resistance. So really you could do anything you were comfortable doing. And the song playing was the Monkees' Daydream Believer. And I was cycling, I was singing along with that, and it is the closest moment that I've had to like pure joy while I've been riding my Peloton. I was just so happy in that moment. I was like smiling by myself in my living room. So let me sum up this entire review by saying that obviously I felt a good personal fit there because I feel like I have a lot of the same taste in music that he does. But overall, I would say that Sam is your person for instructor if you want to feel like you are supported and you trust your instructor. You trust he's not going to push you further than you want to go. And I found for that reason, I was going along with him and getting these personal records because I knew I could do what he wanted me to do. I would highly recommend him if you are not somebody who wants that tough love or overly rah-rah kind of feel. If you want somebody who is in the moment with you on the ride and providing really good structure and loving the music, but not getting off his bike to yell at you or necessarily taking any dance breaks, then Sam might be for you. I haven't really mentioned the Pilates too much because it was sort of one of the last things that I did, and I only did his 10-minute intro. But that feeling of him providing support and trusting him carried into that class. So I followed along with everything, and it actually makes me want to try some of his other Pilates classes because I feel like I trust him, and I trust him to explain well what I need to do and provide me structure to be successful. So here is what I need you to do. I need you to like this video and subscribe if you like this video. I did say I would mention that again. But I also want you in the comments to provide suggestions on who you think I should follow along with for a week next. And also, if there is an instructor you particularly love that you want me to try, and there are rides of theirs that you particularly love and want me to try as a good example of what they're like as an instructor, please leave all of that in the comments down below. I appreciate any and all of your feedback. Thank you so much for joining me for this review today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye.